Great. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the DU series. This is the day 4 of the DU series, and we are in the Delhi chapter. Along with me, I have people from Mumbai chapter and Sri Lanka chapter as well, right? And let's move forward. Yeah, bit on introduction about myself. My name is Mukesh Kala, and I am currently leading the Delhi chapter. In case you also want to be a speaker in this Delhi chapter, feel free to reach out to me. I have my LinkedIn. I'll share my details along with you guys. So in case you have some interesting topic you want to share, you want to be a speaker, or you want some help to present in the Delhi chapter, you can always reach out to myself. Okay. So talking about the uh, Delhi chapter. So in case you are joining for the first time, we also have a WhatsApp group for the Delhi NCR meetup. You guys can scan this QR. Alternatively, you can also go to community.uipath.com/Delhi NCR. That's where this event is happening. You can join these groups, you can join the community page so that you directly get notification as soon as there is an event published on this, right? I will also post the link for the Sri Lanka and the Mumbai and the other chapters as well. So feel free to join all the chapters, right? So all these links, everything would be available for you in the chats in some time. If I talk about the document understanding series, so this is the complete series of 5 days. We started on Monday till Friday. So today is the session 4 where we are going to talk about model training in the document understanding. We already covered the basics, the framework by Vino, the use cases attended, unattended by Pradeep, and today's session is by Lahiru. In case you are directly joining this session or you have missed any of the previous session, you don't have to worry. You can just go to the home page you can just click on the register button and for the previous session as well, and you would be able to get the recordings, the file, the material, even the presentations are uploaded for all the sessions, right? Sometimes it takes some 4 to 5 hours for the recording to process and get uploaded. So please do wait for 4 to 5 hours after the session to get the recording available. And same would happen for today's sessions as well, right? So this would be the link. I'll again post the link in the description as well, right? So that was about the Delhi chapter. A quick announcement, guys. We are also having the UiPath community MVP applications open. So people who are joining this for the first time, so MVP is the highest recognition which the community members get for their contribution, innovation in the field of UiPath community, right? So I have my colleague Pradeep, Lahiru, Vino, all of us are the UiPath MVPs. In case you want to apply for that, you can join this, you can scan this QR, or you can directly go to this link. I'll share the link and you can apply for the MVP program as well. The applications are still open. And with that, I would like to invite Lahiru, who is going to be our speaker for today. Right, so I'll stop the sharing and over to you, Lahiru.
Just a second, let me show my screen. Hope you can hear me clearly.
Yeah, you're audible. We can see your screen as well.
I'm just trying to open the chat window so I can see the chat. Cool. All right, let's start. So, hello everyone. It's good evening, good afternoon, and I also saw some people from US will be joining. So today's session, I'll be talking about the model training side of document understanding. So I'll just skip this slide for now. So this is me, Lahiro, and I work for Monolith Group as RPA lead, and I practice it for document understanding and AI. So today we are going to talk a little bit around, instead of directly jumping into document understanding, let's also just talk about why AI powered automation and what are the AI products available in UiPath. Then the capabilities of document understanding when it comes to AI. And let's see how we can implement these things, best practices, things you need to follow. So it's a mixture of a little bit of practical and also the theoretical side. So this is the plan for today. So what is AI-powered automation? This is mostly about, so usually when we talk about automation, we talk about the robots or the software robots taking care of manual, repetitive, high volume activities, right? But those are mostly rule based. There can be scenarios where we need to do some decision making and do certain activities based on the data that we get that requires a little bit of intelligence. So that's where AI can actually help us to enhance our way of doing the decision making and optimizing the operations and improving the efficiency. This also gives us the capability to process some complicated activities.
We have UiPath.
Okay. Yeah, so AI is mostly towards mimicking reasoning and understanding when it comes to data. So what is the use of this is to improve how we do stuff or improve your automations to do more complicated things rather than just the usual, um, the basic activities. Mukesh, can you confirm whether my voice is breaking?
Yeah,
I
Lairu,
think
sometime it is breaking. Maybe you can just speak closer to the mic. That should be okay. Yeah. Or maybe if you want, you can turn off the video as well for better connectivity.
I hope now it's better. Let me know if it is still there.
Yeah, it's better now. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. So this is why we need AI within our automations. And recently, we all have seen the trend about open AI and this generative AI capabilities, right? And we have also looked at doing the same thing for document processing as well. Because when it comes to documents, as you have seen so far, we have different document types such as structured, semi-structured, and even unstructured. So when it comes to this complicated document processing, it requires certain advanced capabilities. So that's where AI plays a major role in processing documents. And I think you have seen this diagram before I think in Mukesh's session. So when we talk about the document understanding, it's not just one technology. It is a combination of multiple things. You have the original document processing stuff, then RPA, and then the AI. So it's a combination of all these things where you can help tell the robots or teach the robot that these are the documents that we are going to process, and this is how you need to extract, classify, and do all those things. So mainly the role of AI when it comes to document processing is to understand the data, classify the information, and also extract meaningful information, and also try doing some conversions, like data transformations, for example. So let's go into detail as we go around this. So this is where AI comes in to document processing. And in UiPath, we have these four areas when it comes to document processing where we can use AI. One is the AI Center. Here we can see 30 plus pre-trained specialized AI models to process your documents. This includes invoices, purchase orders, ID cards, and so many other stuff, which is already trained, and you just need to plug it and try and use it. And then you also have models for classification. You also have models for extraction in AI Center. In addition to that, you can also use your own third-party model. So if you have your internally developed AI model to process documents, you can include that as well in AI Center. And it also provides the retraining capabilities. Then comes the integration service. So this is also another one that we can use along with document understanding to connect with third-party AI capabilities like generative AI, for example. And this provides the connectivity and we can even use the API active. Then comes the studio. Here, with certain dependencies, um, by now I think you have covered the required dependencies for document understanding. So with those things, you have seen that there are specialized activities that you can use for classification and extraction. This also includes AI-related activities. Not just that, we also can do generative classification and generative data extraction using Gen AI capabilities offered by UiPath. Then comes the document understanding service that you can see on the cloud platform as a separate option. So here also you can use certain capabilities like Forms AI and one-click classification, extraction. All these options are available for you to easily train a model to perform classifications and extraction. We'll try to cover some of these things today. So as a platform, these are the places where you can see AI capabilities or options to use AI for your document processing activity. And since now we know where to find these capabilities, let's now see whether, based on what, we can decide whether we need AI to process our document. So this thing can be categorized in high level into like 5 sections: document layouts, document content, languages, and classification needs, and so on. So during a requirement gathering session for a document understanding project, um, this is slightly different when it comes to usual RPA projects, because in RPA project we look at the process to see what the users are doing. Here, in addition to the process, we also need to look at the documents, the actual documents that we are processing. So when we are looking at the documents, we need to look at these few areas. One is the document layout. Why we need to look at the layout? Because it it has all the information that you need to understand and see how you can classify and how you can extract. So for example, if you get a bunch of invoices, if it's an invoice processing project, you need to go through those invoices and see how the layout looks like, because some invoices are very simple and straightforward, but there can be invoices that span across multiple pages and the structure looks very complicated, and the fields that you need to extract can be scattered across different areas or mentioned inside different tables, so we never know. So this is why it is important to look at the structure of the document, whatever that you are processing, whether it's structured, semi-structured, or even unstructured. It's always good to take different samples from the users and see what are the things that they are looking at to extract and how the document itself looks like. Because sometimes the file can even include multiple documents inside it, like multiple invoices, for example. So these are the dynamic things that we need to look at. And based on these things, we will decide whether to go with AI or whether to just stick with the form extraction, regex, or all those things. So, for example, if it's a semi-structured document, so when I say semi-structured, what I mean is the layout, it has a structure, but from file to file, the structure is different. It is not always the same. So in invoices, purchase orders, receipts, they all follow this. So in such scenarios, we cannot really say this is exactly where you can find the invoice number, for example. So in those cases, we need a little bit of intelligence to find what we need and extract that information. So in such cases, we'll need to see that we need to use an AI model that understands invoices and try to extract that information. Same goes for unstructured. When it comes to unstructured, the content can be largely different. Like you might have paragraphs, you might have anything in a document. So in such cases, you need to see how you can identify that information. Can you really write a rule, or can you introduce some kind of a template, or should I use some sort of intelligence to find what I need? So this is why the document layout plays a role in identifying the required AI capabilities. And it's not just that. Then comes the document content, the length of the content that you're requiring from the document. So, for example, again, invoice is a simple example where you just need to look at few fields like the invoice number, date, and so on. But there can be scenarios where you need to extract a lot more information than that. Let's say a paragraph from a legal document, for example, and you need to extract that entire paragraph. Let's say there are requirements like that. So in such cases, the content length and how it is presented in the document and how often these things change and what are the things that change. These are little things we need to look at so we can really decide whether to go with a specialized AI model or whether to go with a generative AI model and decide on those things. Then comes the language. So there are different AI models available, but they might not support all the languages that we have. So we need to understand what are the languages that we are trying to process, and does the model support these languages? Can you train the model with those languages if it does not support it? Do we have handwritten data? And do we have any object detection capability or requirements like identifying a stamp or something like that from the document? Because I remember someone asked a question like that in yesterday's session, I think. If how to detect certain objects in a document. So in such cases, you might need to use object detection model kind of a thing. So these are all the little things we need to look at to figure out what AI capabilities we need. Then comes the classification. So the classification can be simple as just providing a keyword, but there can also be scenarios where your documents are very complicated and you just can't provide a keyword or a group of keywords. So this especially happens when you have unstructured documents. So in those cases, we'll need to use a machine learning classification or even generative classification. And then also comes the document splitting, how you can identify the document and where to split and what are the different document types in the file. So all this requires some level of intelligence. So when I say AI, it's not always the thing that you see in AI center. It can also be the things that you see in the studio. So for example, if it's the intelligent keyword classifier, it has its own intelligence to identify the different pages and how to split based on the content. Yeah. And then lastly, the data extraction capabilities. Okay, just a second. Let me just turn off this thing. Okay, I hope now the voice is clear. Can anyone
Yeah,
confirm?
it's a little bit of echo, Lahiru. I think that's why. But otherwise, we are able to hear you. It's not that it's not clear, but a little bit of echo is there. But yeah.
All right. Okay, so the next thing is the data extraction. And as I mentioned before, the data extraction part, identifying the fields that you need to extract and what are the transformations that you need to do once you extract it, and how that information is presented in the document. So we need to look at all of these things and then decide what AI model that we are going to use. Do we need to train these models, and how much do we need to train? And what are the other AI intelligence capabilities that we require? So based on these things, we can, once we have the full requirement gathering and analyze these things, then we can figure out what we should do. So these are more like the deciding factors. And I multiple times mentioned specialized AI and also generative. So in UiPath, we have both of these options for classification and extraction. So when it comes to classification, we do have specialized AI capabilities. Like the AI Center, there is a classification model that you can use. Even the document understanding service offers you a classification capability. Or else you can find the intelligent keyword classifier. And these are mainly used when you have, like, as I mentioned before, the different requirements, if the content is varying too often and so on, you can decide which one to go with. And generative capabilities are also there. If you have like a lot of unstructured information and you cannot really train a model in those cases, you can use the generative capabilities because it understands the language and it understands the context, and you can use that to really figure out how to figure out what kind of a document that is. And that's for classification. And then comes the extraction for semi-structured and the other things. We have different AI models, but you can also use the generative capabilities for processing unstructured documents. And if the content is very complex and you cannot really define any kind of rules or so on, you can just easily use a generative extractor and even do some transformations. Like, for example, if you have a bunch of like a table that you want to extract, you can extract it and directly convert it to a JSON structure through the extractor itself. I'll show you one example as well. So these are the things that you can use when it comes to document processing. And once you identify all these things, you can really decide whether to go with specialized AI or generative capability. And yes, so now we are going to talk about how to implement these AI capabilities for your document processing activity. To do this, we have four things. So the first part is collecting documents for your model training. So how do we collect the documents? What are the things that we need to follow? I'll take an example, the invoice processing, because this is more of a simple or a use case that is common and we all can understand easily. So in an invoice processing use case, and you need to train a model, let's say, um, do you just collect any invoice that they give you and do you just train a model, or do you follow any kind of practice? I'm asking a question just to see what you guys have done. If you have done an invoice processing project before, you can put it in the chat or you can tell me.
We collect the data and then we see how many layouts are there.
Mhm.
First step, like how to get an idea that how many layouts are present. Then how, and then do we have the sufficient or ample amount of data? Those things maybe.
Okay, cool, good. Yes, so those are little things that we need to follow. So in a requirement gathering session again, when we are looking at the documents, we, as Aditya mentioned, we check what are the different layouts that we have and from whom do we get these documents and how it looks like, what is the length of the invoice, like, and the structure, all these different variations we looked at, and we also check what fields we need to extract. So I'll take the first one. Okay, so coming back here. So when you are implementing, these are the four main things that we need to look at: collecting the documents, training your model, evaluating the performance, and fine tuning and analyzing the straight through processing. We'll take one by one and see how we can do that. So starting from collecting the document. Yes, so as Aditya mentioned, we need to identify the different layouts and the different documents. So we understand the complexity and information that we need to extract. And then comes the collect, based on these layouts, we collect multiple samples from each layout so that we can do a proper training. And if once we get all the documents that we require, we don't use the whole thing for training. We kind of separate it, like 80% goes to training, and then you can keep the remaining 20 for your evaluation. Why we do an evaluation, I'll tell in a while. And the reason to do this separation is, so let's say you get 100 documents, and you train it on 80. If you check whether your model is working on those same 80 documents, then since it knows those layouts, it will most probably give you an accurate answer. But that's not the purpose of AI. We also need to see tomorrow if something new comes in, will that support and how much accuracy it will produce. So those are the little things that we do with evaluations, and that's why we keep 20 out of those outside or separate so that we can use that later to check how our model is performing. So that's a separate process. I'll get to that. And then when you're collecting, you also need to consider the languages, tabular data that you're going to extract, handwriting, the document splitting requirements, and all those little things. And when you're doing this collection, you might also ask the question, how many documents I need to train a model? I even saw that question yesterday. So UiPath offers a small screen that kind of gives you a guideline. This is what you see in that screen, so I can show you instead of the screenshot. Just hang on a second so that I can move my screen to AI Center. So this is happening in the document understanding service. I will, just a second. Let me create something here. Now I'm just trying to create, yeah, so this is where you can see the screen. So from here, you can select, so all these things are all the pre-trained models that's available in UiPath. And you have invoices, different variations of invoices, receipts, and so on. So let's take invoices for now. Let's say you have invoice processing usage. And then this model is also capable of extracting certain information already. So you can decide based on your requirement, you can select what are the fields I need to extract. So let's say I just need to extract some of these. I'm just unchecking some stuff. So let's say these are the stuff we need to extract as a regular field. And from the column fields, let's say I don't need these stuff, and this is all I need. And depending on that, you can also tell out of these pre-trained fields, do you also have any custom fields that you want to extract? Let's say you want to extract any phone numbers or any other additional information that's available in the document, and the model doesn't know any of this. So you can say, I have about, let's say, 3 custom regular fields, and I also have like 2 column fields that I have to extract. And then comes the layout. So all this refers to the same set of questions that we looked at earlier during the document identification part. And let's say we have more than 25 layouts. And down here, You might have seen or noticed that while I was selecting these things, this kept on changing. And this kind of gives you an indication that you will require between 360 to 1140 pages or documents to train a model. Why do we have this range? Because this can depend. So this thing cannot really say that you need exactly 100 documents to train, because this kind of depends on the different layouts and the complexity of the documents. So if the document is very, very complicated and you have like a lot of tabular data and so on, then you might need a little bit of extra samples from those kind of those kind of documents. And if the document is pretty much straightforward, you might not need like 50 or 100 documents. You can just try to stick with a lower number. So what we kind of do is, um, so there is also a minimum number that you can use. So for each layout, you can maybe start with 20 or 30 um, documents, and then based on how it detects, you can even do a quick check on how the model is performing on certain invoices, right? And based on that, you can probably see, okay, if the model is identifying the fields very accurately, then you might not even need to train those kind of layouts. So just do your initial research on how the model is performing. And based on that, just start with 20 or 30 initial count. And if it's complicated files, you can increase it a little bit. So this serves as a guide for you. And even within this range, if you can divide it by the number of layouts that you know, it will kind of gives you how many documents you need for each layout. Sort of. Yeah, so this is a simple guide that you can do when deciding how many documents that you need. Okay. And then while you do this, it's also important to make sure your model training is not biased. So just don't include all the documents because they shared everything with you. Because if you have like 20 different layouts, and if you train the model with, if you get like 100 documents for all 20, and out of that 100, if 60 documents just belongs to one layout, don't do that, because that makes the model biased towards that one. I have seen this before in real implementations, where people have done that, and the model is not identifying other information accurately. So it is always remember to keep a balance between your data so that it works much better. Those are some little tips for your best practices. And then when you're collecting, you can also think about how you can train. So for classification, how you can train a classifier based on the documents that you get. One option you have is the document manager through AI Center. So if you go to AI Center, I'm in the DU app, so let me go to AI Center. Uh, Let me just select something. And if you go to ML packages, out of the box packages, here under document understanding, you will see an option for classification. It was here, document classification. There is one called document splitter, and this is the document classifier. So this is a generic model that you can train for your document types and use the AI functionality. So this is the one that I was referring to. And the next option is the document understanding service. So in the service, how you can create your classifier is, let me go back to this page. So in the service, let me show you how to do that. I'll create a new project, let's say, and in here, we can specify what are the document types we are going to process. So this is, once you create your project, this is the screen you get. So here you can see 4 options: document types, extractors, and classifiers. So the first thing you need to do, specify what documents you want to process. So I can say, I want, and you also need to tell whether these documents are semi-structured or does it have a fixed structure. For fixed structures, you use the forms AI. For the semi-structured, it goes back to AI Center and use that predefined models that you have there. So let's say I have a structured document. I'll use forms AI. I'll just say I have, let's say, some something like this. So I just create it. So by default, it will take you to this screen. So I selected the structure one. That's why it is taking you to this forms AI. And down here, it created that type for you. You can also add another one. Let's add a semi-structured one. And let's say I have invoice. And you can select the model, the fields you need to extract. I'll just keep it as default, just to make it easier. And I have this many layouts. So I create this.
Nehru, I have one doubt. Like we
Yes.
already fixed that we already give all the fields in taxonomy, right? But again, what
Mhm.
why we are here doing this?
Okay. Yes. All right. So in the taxonomy, what happens there is, um, yeah. So this is the DU template, and I'll just open the taxonomy manager. So what happens in the taxonomy is, this taxonomy is used in your document understanding flow. And
Yes.
when you define this information here, like this document, and these are the fields I need to extract. This tells your robot that when I encounter a document, I need to check whether this document belongs to any of these things.
Okay.
And then if it belongs to any of these things, this taxonomy will tell the bot that, okay, so if it's a certificate of filing, this taxonomy tells the bot when it comes to the extraction stage that these are the fields I am looking at to extract. I don't care how you extract, but this is what I need. How you do the extraction is a separate thing. So how you do the extraction, that can happen through regex, it can happen through form extractor, it can happen through a ML extractor or even something else, as you decide. But at the end, for this document, this is what I need. This is what the taxonomy tells. And this is the end user requirement. Extract this information, right? But this is limited for the flow. And now when it comes to the AI part of it, AI models can have its own version of that. Because the AI model is not just specific to one process. So there can be scenarios where this AI model is used by team A just to extract 3 fields, right? But the same AI model can be used by another team to extract more information. And
Okay.
the out of the box model that is given to us, let's take the invoice, right? So for your use case, you might just extract some fields, like 5 or 10 fields for your use case. But I am using the same out of the box model to extract a different set of fields. And that might be there in the model, or I might need to train, right? So every AI model will have its own schema. So it's not the taxonomy when it comes to the AI part, it's the schema. So in this case, this model that we are looking at, this invoice model, it knows to extract all this information. But do we need all of these things? No. For
No.
our use case, we might just need the vendor name, address, and this some basic information, right? So we can just uncheck the other stuff because we don't need it. So we are using the same model, but just to extract what we need. I hope you understood that part.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So we
And
just, yeah,
yeah,
yes,
even I
sir.
had a question regarding this part that what is the basically document splitter that out of the box model which you showed us?
Okay.
What does it
Yeah.
do?
Yes, I'll get to that. Let me just finish this screen and I will show you. So we just select some fields here and we create another one. So I was just trying to show you how the classification works with the AI in the DU service. So this takes you to document manager where you do the labeling, right? But over here under document types, now we have two types defined. So how the AI classification works is you have these two windows open, right? So how you can easily train a classifier is you just import the documents, just import. You don't do any labeling, just import your invoices here. And you do the same here, just import all your documents, nothing else. And then you have given your documents for this one and also for this one. Then you go for classifier and down here you create, or you can select either of these, but if you select automatic training, you can create your own AI classifier. Just give a name. And you can select these are the document types that my classifier should understand and try to classify. It is giving this error because I don't have any documents yet. But if I have uploaded any documents here, this will not turn red. So what I have done for the classification is I'm just importing. I'm not labeling anything. I'm just importing the document just to say that this is how the document will look like. And you select that and you click on train and it will do the automatic training behind the scenes and it will create a ML classifier. So it's very easy. You can give it a try. So, and that ML classifier will work for these document types. And you can anytime add more and keep training. Okay, and I'm now coming back to your thing, the document splitter. So this is actually a part of the private preview. You can sign up and you can use it. Else this will not work for you. This is uh, this kind of has its own intelligence. So what we do is, if you have a big document, let's say some unstructured content that has multiple document types inside it, what this guy will do is, if you need to split, so as of now, we use the intelligent keyword classifier for splitting, right? And
Yes.
but for that, you kind of need to train it and it identifies some keyword groups, and based on that, it tells you this is where to split. But without doing any of those things, this document splitter has the capability to understand its content and the context of the document, and it also has the capability to understand how different pages and different sections of the documents are separated. And based on that, it will use its intelligence to say, this is one document, and from this page, this is another document, and so on, just by understanding the context, just like how we do. But it's still in preview, so you need to sign up for your preview and see how it works.
Okay, so which one we should prefer, the intelligent classifier, keyword classifier, or the document splitter when we are
Um,
the documents?
yes, it can depend on the requirement. Intelligent keyword classifier is also capable of doing a lot of things, even processing unstructured documents and trying to split from different places. I have used it for complicated document processing stuff on unstructured documents. So it does a pretty good job. Um, you can give it a try, but if it is not able to accurately do it, then you can try this one as well. But still, this is in preview. Just remember that. But intelligent keyword classifier is very good. It can actually do a lot of it.
Okay. Also, I have one more question last.
Yes.
What happens if we have very less data for a particular layout? Then what we should do? Like how to train the model on that particular part?
Okay. So for classification, you don't need like 100, 200 documents. It's just if you can identify some number of documents, just try to add it and train it and see if it can give you a good result. Or else the other option you can do is you do the initial training on that document sample. And as you go, as you use the model, you have these feedback loops, right? The fine tuning part, the next topic that we are going to talk about. Through that, also, whenever you see that kind of a document, you can use the validation screen and do a little bit of fine tuning. So that's also an option that you can
Okay.
do. Okay. Um, and lastly, then you have the studio activities. I'm not going to show you this because I think you saw that in the last two sessions for the keyword and the intelligent keyword classifier. And then when it comes to the extractor part, you have the document manager, the same screen I showed you earlier, through AI Center for different models. So that part I can show you. Okay. So let's take this project and down here, okay, under ML packages, we can find the different document understanding models. These are all pre-trained models that you can use. If you don't have a pre-trained model for your document, you also have another generic package that you can use to train it from scratch on your custom document, which is this one, the document understanding. This is a
Actually,
generic one which is
in my
pre-trained.
orchestrator, I'm unable to see this AI center only. I'm searching for that.
Maybe you are using the community edition. You need to enable the trial to see the AI center.
Okay. No. It is trial edition. You have
Okay.
more license allocated to your services than you have able to set.
Lairu, sorry, you need to enable it on the tenant, right? Which services you want to see.
Okay. Means that can be done in admin panel, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Admin panel and licenser.
Yes. Yeah. Under that you can enable it. The services screen.
Okay.
Yes. So this is a generic model that is not pre-trained, and you can just create this, add your custom schema, and train it. So I'll just show for one. You can just create, and you can give it any name. I'll just say this is your package, and under data labeling, you can go to document understanding. You can even create a new data set for this thing. I will create it right here. And I also need to give a name for the labeling session. Sorry. Yeah, and this will give you the labeling session that will take you to the document manager. This same screen that you saw earlier. And from here, you can define the regular fields that you want to extract, the column fields that you want to extract. And this is the thing that I called you as schema. In the regular fields, you can say, this is, I'll just say the invoice because it's easy. Yes, the invoice number, and this is the data type. And also say, let's say the date field. You can select the field types here. And there are several other properties that you can explore, whether this is a multi-value field or a multi-line field. Multi-line means it has multiple lines that you need to detect. And save. So this way you can create your schema and then import the documents and start labeling. I'll just import one document here just to show you how to do the labeling. Import, I'll just say, this is just the batch name that you need to provide. And let me try to find a document. Given the time, I'll just use one because there's a few more things to cover. So once you import it, it will do the analysis, do the digitizing, and you can click on import. It takes few seconds. Another option here is you can see this duplicates. So you cannot upload the same document multiple times. It will detect it as a duplicate file. So let's say, just for these two fields, right? I want to identify the invoice number. So what you need to do is just click on this invoice number. And here you see a small shortcut key, I, O, or D. You can even edit it here. This is the shortcut. And highlight and just press that key. And it gets added to that. Or else, if this thing is connected with a specialized model like invoice, you can use those capabilities or even the generative predict. This is using the generative capabilities in the labeling screen where it can identify what you're looking for. It kind of makes your life a bit easier. So you don't need to click and add everything. So it understands the document and find what you need to extract. Here you can see with the generative predict, it understands that this is the invoice and it extracts the invoice data. So you can explore these options, and same applies for the column fields as well. So this is how you do a labeling using these options. And let's say you have like 100 documents labeled. And once you have done that, you can just click on this export option. Right now, I cannot export because I have only one document. You can just click on export and give it a name and just click on the export to AI Center. Once you do that, over here, it will create a folder in your data sets under this data set that we created over here, saying export and some random value. And that's your trained data. And then when it comes to the pipelines, here you can create a training pipeline by selecting the train option, give it a name, select what your package that you want to train, and where your package version. And when training, this is something you need to remember all the time, and this is quite confusing for many people. Every time you run a successful training pipeline, this minimum version, the minor version, will always increase. So right now it's 0. When I do a successful training run, this will have 0 and 1. And if you do another one, it will have 0, 1, 2, and likewise. So by default, we tend to select the last one, which is the highest. But it is not the case when you're training. When training, you need to always select the base version 0. So every time you train a model, use 0. This also applies when you do the feedback loops and the data that you get from the validation screen. You add it to the AI center. And then also when you do the training, you always select 0. Why we do that? When you select 0, it takes your basic initial training. And on top of that, if you have done any other fine tuning, any other training, it will consider all of those things and train it. But if you use the highest version, it will only use a limited set of data and your accuracy will go down. So always remember to, when it comes to training, select the minor version 0. And then you can select your data set that you exported and create your training run. So I'm not going to do this now because it takes a lot of time. But this is how you do a training. And then through the document understanding service. So I showed you two screens there. In the service, you created the data set, the document types, and as soon as you created it, took you to those two screens, right, where you can import the document. And the good thing about the document understanding service is you can use that same imported data that you use for classification to train your model for extractor as well. So all you need to do is on that same screen, do the labeling and instead of so instead of coming here, once you do the labeling, you go here for extractors, and with automated training, you select the model, train it on that one, and you will have a AI model that works on that document type. So this is the easier way of doing it. So those are the different training options you have. And collecting documents for classifier. Again, just like the extraction part, you need to, when you collect the documents, you need to identify what kind of keywords that you need to use, or whether you can use keyword groups. And always remember to use unique keywords across different document types so that whether it's the keyword classifier, intelligent keyword classifier, it doesn't get confused. And depending on your document splitting requirements, you can use the different classifiers. And so intelligent keyword classifier. This is a very important part. So in the intelligent keyword classifier, it is one of its main capabilities is splitting. So if you have a bunch of documents, files that has multiple documents, let's say the first page is an invoice, second page is a purchase order, third page is something else, and so on. Right? So in this case, if you use that file to train your intelligent keyword classifier, it might confuse because you're giving a file that has multiple documents to train a specific type. So in such cases, the best practice is split it into multiple files. Take the invoice, take it as a one file. Take the purchase order, keep it as one file. Even if it has multiple pages, create a file that has all those pages and use those files to train your classifier. In this way, your classifier will know each and every page that it needs to understand and classify into a specific type. So always use that. Don't just use the big document to train the intelligent keyword classifier. If you have multiple documents, it might else it is fine. And again, for this also, make it unbiased. And and when you're specifying keywords, always specify accurate and enough keywords to properly do that. Give me a second. Right. The next thing is how you do the evaluation. When I talk about evaluation, I'm referring to the machine learning models, not the classification. So I mentioned earlier, the when you collect the documents, you need to split it into two parts. One should go for training, and another part of that goes for evaluation. So why you do the evaluation is to decide. So when your model is trained, it doesn't tell you how accurate it is on all the document types or the fields. You need to run it and test it. So in that case, um, if we are to understand how accurate it is, we need to run an evaluation and see that. So how to do it? You in your AI center under pipelines, what we saw earlier is the training pipeline, but right next to that option was the evaluation. So you need to run that evaluation option or the evaluation pipeline so that it uses that other document set to cross check how the model is working. Just like how you run it in your workflows, this happens internally. So to do the evaluation also, you need to do the labeling. So here in your document manager, when you are importing the data, there is an option to make this as an evaluation set. So whatever that you import, right now with this option enabled, those documents will be considered as a data set used for evaluation. So what you do there is same as what you do here. You just import the documents, label it just like before. And if you see any OCR errors, so for example, let's say this one was detected as I in the evaluation. If that is an evaluation set, you have this option to edit it here. I cannot edit it because this is a training set. In the evaluation, you can edit and make that correction. It's not I, it's one. We need to do that because that information is used for evaluating the model. So when you run the evaluation pipeline, what happens there is it generates a set of files for you. If you let me go back to this slide. Yeah, if you look at this screenshot, once the pipeline is successful, it will give you an Excel file that you can download in the pipeline screen, where it will tell you for each field and for each document what was the actual value, what was the extracted value, and what's the confidence. It will give you that Excel matrix where you can see actually what happened. And using that information, you can really figure out how your model is performing for each field and for each layout. So it might work perfectly for one layout, but in another layout, maybe the inverse number field is not properly getting detected. So in those cases, you can really see where the model is lacking or behind in accuracy. And you can add a few more training data on those layouts and do another training run so that it knows it better. So that's why the evaluation is important, and you can do that through the evaluation cycle. And then comes the fine tuning. So the fine tuning happens in two places, for classification and also for extraction. So for classification, we have this train classifier scope activity along with the classifier trainer. And for these things, you only need to use the manually verified data. You don't use the automatically corrected, automatically extracted, and if that is correct, you don't use that information to again fine tune because the model already knows it. We only use the feedback loop for the things that the model is not able to do. Same goes for extraction. I'll show you one how this works. I have a simple workflow that I created. So here, this is a simple workflow where I just need to select a file. I have a taxonomy, which is a very basic one. And I have the digitize and I have the classifier. I use the keyword-based classifier because it is the easier way to show it. So right now, this keyword classifier is not trained for any document type. You can see there are no keywords. And after this validation string, I have used the train classifier scope along with the keyword-based classifier trainer, pointing to the same JSON file. And I have said, when you're running, train it for this document. So I'll show you how this works when it comes to the manual verification, classification screen. So right now I have not done anything. Let me just run it. And I should get a pop-up screen. Yes. So let me just select something. So what happens now is it will do the digitizing and it will do the classification and it will show me the classification station. It will, ideally it should not tell what document that is because I have not given any keyword. Yes. So it doesn't know what this is. So what if I do something like this? So I'm just trying to simulate how this feedback thing works. Feedback loop, right? So here it doesn't know. But here, I'm going to specify, I need this invoice, description, and number. So if I see these three keywords, I want to tell that this is the invoice. So I'm going to say, I'm selecting invoice here because this is the type I need to select. But still I haven't specified the keyword. So I have selected it. And on these three dots, I have the option to add reference. Once I do that, you can see this blue color thing appearing here. And if you just click on that, it will also highlight the three keywords I mentioned. And now if I click save, the information that came from this validated classification result, the output of the classification session will get saved in our JSON. So now, if I click on this thing, sorry, go to manage learning. Earlier, you didn't see any keyword. And now see this. It has the keyword. That's the same thing I selected. So now if I run the process, and if I select, let's say I'll just select another. This time it should be able to tell me whether it's an invoice or not. Let's wait a second. Okay, I think I selected the wrong one. Just stop it. One second, let me also highlight another one. I selected few keywords. As reference to invoice. Let's try that again. Okay, let me select something. I hope I enabled it here. Yes, now see here. Based on those keywords, now it is telling me that this is an invoice. What keywords did it use? You can see it here under highlight reference, the word invoice. And here you can see the components. So that's really how the feedback loop works for classification. So always we use the manual verified data for this kind of stuff. I hope that is clear. And now let's go back to our slide. And now we are talking about the models. Again, when it comes to the AI models, we need to do a little bit of extra things. We have the same set of activities for feedback loops when it comes to AI stuff. So let me show that as well. I'm having this view template open. So if I just go to train extractor workflow, here you can see the extractor scope, and depending on the extractor that you are using, you can use these activities. This is the extractor trainer, and all the manually verified data you can either save it in your local drive and upload it to AI Center later, or else you can just select the project and the data set and upload that directly from the activity itself to your data set. And what happens when you upload in your data set? It will create another folder called fine tune, and all this manually verified data will get saved there. So that's one part of enabling feedback loop for extraction. But for your model to automatically use that manually verified data and learn, there are a few extra things that you need to do. One is, so this is enable feedback loop and push the manually verified data to AI Center. This is the one that we looked at. The next thing is, in our document manager, we need to schedule our export. So in the document manager here, when you click export, you have this schedule option. So what happens when you enable this schedule? This runs on a time-based run. What happens here is, it will consider all the documents that is already inside this session, and it will add all the new documents that it gets from the fine-tune folder in the data set and import all those things here. And those documents are already labeled through the validation screen. So you don't need to do any labeling here. So it imports all that and it automatically exports that into your data set as a training set. And this export, since it's automatic, it will have a different name called automatic export. And then, so that's one step, enabling this export. The other step is, in your pipeline, either you can schedule your pipeline or you can run your pipeline by yourself. And so both options are there. You can, yes, so you can schedule the pipeline so that, and this is also why that you need to select the minor version 0, right? And every time you run that pipeline, you consider all those things to train your model. And then it will just train it. And once you have the latest version of the package in your skill, you can upgrade it to the latest version. So I'll also show that. I cannot really demonstrate that whole thing because this part really takes some time. So that's why I have to just show on the screen. So in here, if you have like multiple versions, it will show here so that you can select the latest one. Or else you can also enable auto update. So whenever there is a new version that is coming from a successful pipeline, it will automatically update to the latest. And then your model is improved on the latest data. That's how you do the fine tuning for AI models. Yes, I think I already showed the classification training part. I also have something new here. Let me show that one. This is for the generative extract. In the ML extractor, you use that specialized model. So all the models that you see in the AI Center are specialized AI models. Why it is specialized? Because those are specialized to process specific documents like invoices, receipts, and so on. It doesn't work for all the different documents. So there is another one called generative extraction. I have a workflow created here. And the main difference here is, if you can see the dependencies here, it is using the UiPath document understanding activities, not the document understanding ML activities. This is a different one. It's the DU activity. The things we need to do here is slightly different, and this is a very simple flow. So you don't have the taxonomy and those kind of stuff here. Digitize, none of that is here. You have different set of activities. If you look at the document understanding, these are all the activities that we have as of now. So we just need to select the document, and it uses an option called the reference. It's not using the file path. So once you select the file path, using this path exist activity, you can provide the file path as the input, and this gives you the file reference. This reference is used here in the extract document data. This is the activity. And here you can either use any predefined model. So all these are my projects that I have in AI Center. But you can use any of those predefined models, or else you can use the generative extractor. This is something that you don't see in the other version. If I select the generative, I can give prompts, just like you work with ChatGPT and those stuff, right? You just need to tell what you want. So in here, on the left-hand side, I can say these are my fields, just like how you define in your taxonomy. The invoice number, invoice date, and so on. And on the right-hand side, the prompt. In normal language, what is my invoice number, what is the date, and so on. And see this. This is something different I did. For line items of a document, I'm saying I need to extract the line items, but I need it in a JSON format. So let me show this in a notepad. So this is the prompt. In the JSON format, and I'm also telling this is my JSON structure, quantity, unit cost, and the amount. And let's see how it extracts it. So you can see, you can even do a little bit of transformation using this generative. So these are some extra capabilities that it offers. And even if you want to extract large portions of text, this does it really good. And then this does not have the local version of the validation screen. It creates the validation task in the action center. And you can use the wait and resume activity just like in any other. So let's just run for one and see how it looks like. So in the meantime, while this runs, you can ask any question if you have. I'm going to select a file. Enter is still running. Let me also go to my action center. I think I also had one of it before. Okay, so it went into that suspended state. Let me try to refresh. I think there should be something. Maybe I'm in a different mode. Ah, yeah, it's on. Yeah, so you can see it looks the same. Um, These are the information that got extracted based on my prompt, and see the line items. I asked it as a JSON, so it is giving me as a JSON. And it's also highlighting here. And now, once I complete this, how can I extract that values in my workflow? So here, if we look at this thing, okay, let me start the process. So what happens is if you just print it, I'll just show it in the code. How you can access that data in your code? It's like this. So you use the validated extraction result that comes from this activity. The output of this is validated generative extracted data. And here we use that variable dot data property, and inside that you can see all the fields that you defined in your extractor, invoice date, invoice number, and so on. It will also include the value. It will also include extractor confidence. It will also include the OCR confidence for those fields. All these properties: value, OCR confidence, and extractor confidence. So just like before, you can use all that information for your validations and export and do all those. Yes. So that's how you can use the generative extractor. You can try with some complicated documents. Okay. So now, coming back to this. Yeah. So here, I'm just going to talk a little bit about. So we talked about how you train a model, how you do the fine tuning, and how you optimize your stuff, how you do the generative extractor. Now I'm going to talk a little bit around, as a process, how you can improve your AI capabilities as a process overall. So here we look at the straight-through processing. What I mean by straight-through processing is the number of documents that get processed without any manual verification. So we use that as an indicator to see how well our models are performing. And there can be different reasons for a model to not perform, right? And even if you extract the information, your model might be working really well, and it is giving you the extracted data. But every time once you extract it, you're not just going to use it as it is. Once you extract it, you first check whether the extracted data is correct or not. So we kind of do a validation step. For example, here under implementing the business validations, when you extract these things, we kind of check for basic checks like whether it follows a specific pattern. So for example, if it's the date, we can see if it follows the date pattern, the extracted value. And if we have some number that is specific to like 7 digits exactly, we can always check whether it has the 7 digits. And some basic calculations, like in the invoice, the total amount can be equal to the sum of line items, just like what you see in here. So depending on your use case, you can do those kind of validations and see whether your extracted data is correct. So that's also part of verifying how your models are working. And this also can be done by even connecting with any other internal applications. Could be Excel, could be any other application that you connect to API. These are some real scenarios. So all these things that will help for you to get an indication on how well your process is performing. Not just the model, but your overall process. And when it comes to those things, when it comes to human in the loop part, there are several scenarios where it might not work. One is the OCR issues, like one is detected as I, for example, and not able to identify specific fields. Those are like system specific stuff. And when it comes to the external data, maybe the document itself is having incomplete information. right? And if you're connecting to external systems, some issues may happen there because all this information is entered by people. And so, yeah, all those things contribute to your document understanding process. And some of these things contribute to your model as well. So depending on these things, we do a model monitoring to check how well your fields are getting detected, how well the values are getting extracted. So we do these different things to do that. We run the evaluations, we consider those manually verified information, and we run an analysis to see what is the exact cost for you to do the manual verification. And we identify those things and see what is wrong, whether it's a low confidence score, whether it's the inconsistent labeling. Even when you do the training, this can be a thing because while you're doing the labeling, sometimes the guy who is doing it, he might not label something. Those things will contribute for your model to not perform, and even biased model training. And based on what you identify, we have different actions that you perform to improve your model and also your process. And part of that also includes evaluating your confidence thresholds to see whether that is the exact confidence threshold that we are getting and can we reduce it, can we meet it, or do we need to change the confidence threshold? And reviewing our level data, making sure it is working fine, and training your models on different layouts and like that. So to wrap up, all these things contribute to your final model training thing. And so there are a lot of things, there's a lot of information. So we need to capture those things initially so that it is very easy for us when we are training the models and evaluating it so that it gives us the best possible result. Just for you, some latest updates before wrapping up. This document understanding activities that I showed you earlier is a new activity pack, and it also supports cross-platform development for document processing. And there is also a new data type there called the document data. So if you see that workflow, we did not do the digitizing, we did not do the taxonomy, we did not do classification, right? All that information is actually captured now inside a variable called document data. So in this, you will see the document text, the document object model, and all the other information. So it's a task for you. Go and explore what is there. And just related to the machine learning models, we have the generative classifier. This I couldn't show today, but that option is also there under this package. And we saw the generative extractor. And when it comes to labeling, I showed you this generative labeling, specialized AI labeling, and the combination is also there in the document manager. So that being said, we are coming to the end of my session. If you have any questions, let me know.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Lairu, for a wonderful session. Most of other questions our friend Vino has already answered on the chat. Thank you, Vino, for that. Guys, if you have any specific question which is left unanswered, you can just unmute yourself and ask Lahiru directly. Okay. If you don't have any questions, maybe you can just share your feedback. How was the session?
Hi, Mukesh.
Hey.
Juliet here from Kenya. Lahiru, thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. This is just a follow-up. Yesterday, I had requested if it's possible, you demonstrate for us how to extract information from a handwritten documents. I don't know how far you are with that. Thank you.
We know. Can you confirm whether that topic was covered yesterday by Pradeep?
Yeah,
The
I think.
handwritten.
Yeah, I think so. He made it for the subsequent section. I mean, for today, if we can cover it up.
Okay, but I
Yes,
don't see Pradeep.
thank you.
Pradeep, you're here?
I don't think I have a handwritten document that I can try, but yeah, I can just explain how it works. So irrespective of the layout, whether you use the form extractor or whether you use the AI models, the OCR plays a major role here. So the main thing you need to check is whatever the OCR that you are using, whether it supports handwritten text. So when it comes to UiPath document OCR, it does support handwritten data extraction. And the AI capabilities in AI Center that also has the capability to detect handwritten data. And this also works, even the AI models can detect checkboxes, radio buttons, all those things it can detect. So process-wise, there's no much of a difference. How you configure your process, how you write your logic is exactly the same. Even for the workflow that I have, I will not need to change anything in my flow for a handwritten data. Only thing I need to make sure is my OCR can detect handwriting and the model that I'm using can detect handwriting. The same goes for model training as well. It can, if that can identify the handwriting, you can train a model on handwriting. So that's the only thing. The development wise, your flow is exactly the same. There's no difference.
Okay, thank you. I'll give it a try. Thank you.
Thanks, Juliet, for the question. Guys, any more question?
I had a question. Can I? Yeah.
Yeah, please.
So I am a little bit curious what happens if we train on the model which we have already trained. Like in the out of the marks, you told us that you always use the base model. But what if we don't use the base model? We use the model which we have already trained, and on top of that, we train another model. What will happen in that case?
Okay. All right. So let's take the pre-trained model. Let's take the invoices pre-trained model. So that is already trained by UiPath, right? But it might be trained on thousands and thousands of data, but still it might not know your documents, your specific document. So in that case, you can use the same pre-trained model, and using the document manager, you can add your version of your documents, do the labeling, and run a training pipeline with the minimum version 0. So what happens there? It will use its original knowledge, and it will also add your information, and it will enhance its capability to even process your document, right? So every time you do that, it will keep on improving. But the trick here is in the minor version selection, if you use the highest one in your training pipeline, it will use, for the training, it will use the last data set that you have. So you can see, initially you have a whole lot of data given by UiPath, then you have your initial data and so on, right? But if you use the latest or the highest minor version, it will only look at your last export, which is very less. What happens when you do that is your model accuracy will go down. It will not be able to detect some information. This is why it is recommended to always use the minor version 0. Hope that is clear.
Yes, yes.
Any other questions?
Okay, and any more questions, guys? Okay, fine. So guys, I have just posted the link to connect all the speakers, me, Lahiru, Pradeep, and Vino for this session. You can connect us over the LinkedIn, and if you have any questions, you can reach out back as well. For the recording also, you have to just go back to the same link where you just RSVP, and after some time, in few hours, you should have the recording and all the materials, including the presentation, uploaded in the session as well, right? So this was the day 4 of the session. Tomorrow also we are going to have the last session where we are going to talk about the certification. We are going to have one member from UiPath who would be talking about the due plan certification. We are going to address more of your queries, right? So if you have any questions left or you come across something today, you can ask that in the tomorrow session. Lairu is again going to be us with tomorrow as well, right? So with that, we would wrap this session here. Thank you for joining and have a good day. Thanks, Lairu, again, once again. Thank you, Vino, for answering the queries. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.